I'm Jennifer. Standing in the middle of the reception tent, I watched as Mrs. Harrington's face turned several shades of red, her expression a mix of shock and disbelief. That's impossible. You're nobody. You're the unmarried sister who couldn't even make the guest list, she sputtered. I took a deep breath and held up my phone, showing her the property deed. I'm the unmarried sister who owns the venue where you're currently hosting a wedding. A wedding with a $20,000 outstanding balance. It all started earlier that day when I arrived at the gates of Evergreen Manor, my brother Ethan's wedding venue. The wrought iron gates loomed before me like a wall. The security guard barely glanced up from his clipboard. Name? He asked. Jennifer Reed. I'm the groom's sister, I replied. His finger traced down the list, and his frown deepened. I don't see you here. Are you sure you're invited? Just then, a honk from a Mercedes behind me made the guard's jaw tighten. Ma'am, I need you to move your vehicle. I was certain I was on that list, but it seemed I wasn't. My mother emerged from a shiny Lexus in an elegant silk dress. My father, Aunt Grace, and Uncle Henry followed. I told my mother about the problem, but she barely looked at me. Oh, well, you know how it is. Wedding planning is so complicated. She then turned to the guard with a smile. She can come in. She's family. But Aunt Grace piped up, no single guests. Didn't you get the memo, Jennifer? Couples only. It's for a better look. Single people mess up the table arrangements. My future sister-in-law, Chloe, was the one who'd influenced Ethan so much. I repeated, I'm a sister, hating how small my voice sounded. My mother consoled me, but was dismissive. But you understand, Chloe's family is very particular. They're paying for most of this. The Harringtons are old money. They have standards. My father finally spoke. Jennifer, don't make a scene. It's Ethan's day. And they all walked through the gates without a backward glance. I sat in my car, watching couple after couple enter. The Harringtons arrived in a fleet of luxury cars, looking every bit the part of the wealthy elite. Ethan texted me an apology, but it didn't really feel like one. I decided to use the staff entrance at the back. I'd used it many times in the past few years because I own this place. I'd bought Evergreen Manor at a foreclosure sale for a fraction of its value, spent 18 months renovating it, and turned it into the most exclusive wedding venue in the area. My family had no idea. Years ago, I dropped out of medical school to pursue real estate investment. My mother had thought it was a waste, meaning I was embarrassing the family. Ethan, on the other hand, was the golden child. He had a degree from Harvard and was on the fast track at our father's law firm. He had a perfect relationship with Chloe, whose family had connections in high places. When he proposed at Christmas dinner last year, my mother had cried with joy. When I mentioned closing on my third commercial property that same evening, she'd changed the subject. The kitchen staff knew me. The head chef, Luis, looked up from his work. Ms. Reed, didn't expect to see you here today. I told him I was just checking on things, and he seemed to understand. Through the kitchen window, I saw the wedding ceremony begin. Ethan looked handsome in his tuxedo, and Chloe floated down the aisle in a stunning dress. My mother dabbed at her eyes, and the Harringtons sat in the front row like royalty. I knew the contract was for $60,000, and according to my records, it still hadn't been paid. My property manager, Mike, called to tell me that the Harringtons had tried to negotiate the price down 3 weeks ago, claiming the venue wasn't as exclusive as advertised and threatening negative reviews. After the ceremony, as guests moved to the reception tent, I noticed there was no seat for me at the head table. I made my way to the venue manager's office, which was technically mine. The walls were lined with photos of past weddings, and the deed to the property was framed behind the desk. Just then, Luis came in and told me there was a situation. Mrs. Harrington was demanding we comp the champagne service and threatening not to pay the balance of $20,000, which was due that day. I walked into the reception area just as Mrs. Harrington's voice reached a crescendo. This is absolutely unacceptable. Do you know who we are? The Harrington family has been hosting events at top-notch venues for generations. We will not be extorted by some budget operation. The venue coordinator, Lily, stood there, frozen. My mother tried to intervene, looking mortified. Ethan and Chloe watched from the head table, their perfect day starting to fall apart. Mrs. Harrington turned on me when I asked if there was a problem.
Who are you?
Another trained staff member. I introduced myself and said I was handling the situation. She demanded to see the owner, saying they wouldn't pay another cent. Chloe stared at me and then said, Reed. Jennifer Reed. The manor is called Evergreen Manor. She turned to her mother and asked about the name on the deed. I pulled out my phone and showed them the property deed. The silence was deafening. Mrs. Harrington couldn't believe it. I then asked Lily about the cancellation policy for unpaid events. Immediate termination of services, ma'am. Security escort for all guests. Penalty fee of 30%, she replied. My mother pleaded, Jennifer, this is your brother's wedding. I looked at Ethan and said, The brother who left me at the gate? Ethan went pale and said he didn't know. I then addressed the tent. My portfolio includes 15 commercial properties, 8 residential buildings, and 4 event venues across 3 states. Total value? Approximately $90 million. I bought this manor for $5 million during foreclosure. I also showed Mrs. Harrington the evidence of their attempts to negotiate the price down and their financial situation. Their family had financial troubles, and the couple's only policy was to cut costs. I gave Ethan a choice. Option 1. His in-laws leave, and the wedding continues. Option 2. Everyone leaves. Ethan finally saw the light.
I'm sorry, Jennifer.
I'm so sorry. I should have stood up for you at the gate and for years. He decided to pay the $20,000 from his savings, even though it was their honeymoon fund. The Harringtons could stay, but I warned them that one more complaint and they'd be out. The reception resumed, but things were different. Guests who'd ignored me before suddenly wanted to know more about me. My mother approached me tentatively. I had no idea you were doing so well. You never asked, I said. She apologized and asked if we could start over. I told her I wasn't going to beg for her attention anymore. If she wanted to know me, she had to actually show up. As the evening ended, Ethan found me. He said he was going to start marriage counseling with Chloe and quit our father's firm to figure out what he really wanted. He thanked me for not letting him get away with it. A few months later, my mother showed up at one of my properties with coffee and a notepad. She finally wanted to listen. It wasn't everything, but it was a start.